Want to get started? So do we. Hiroko, take it away.
So we'd like to talk about Japanese spirituality. The Japanese spirituality is actually hiding in the plain sight, but it's fabric of our Japanese culture. So if you know where to look, you can find in anime and manga. And then so we like to talk about here to help you to understand the Japanese spiritual culture.
Yeah, think of this as kind of the code, not the Da Vinci Code, maybe like the Japanese spirituality code to help you understand some of the stuff that you're probably seeing. You're already familiar with a lot of this. But first, this is Hiroko's gig, and I'll let her kick this off. So who are you, Hiroko? Who are you?
Okay. My name is Hiroko Yoda. I was born in Tokyo and live in Tokyo. I've spent so many years localizing manga and an anime. The manga includes games. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of nervous. Anyway, games and manga, including the Young Magician, Doraemon, and Dorohedoro.
That's what I'm talking about.
I was Miko. I did the Mikomai, the Shrine Maiden Dance. I have been studying many years the Japanese spirituality, and I wrote several articles to New Yorker and Vice magazine. I'm also I'm also the author of upcoming book. It's called 8 Million Ways to Happiness. It's a mixture of my memoir and the Japanese spiritual culture. And it will be published in December 30th this year.
These cards are sitting at the back of the room. When you leave, you can take one for free. It has all the information about the book on it. As for me, I'm just Hiroko's husband. And we've actually worked on a lot of projects together. We are the co-authors of a book called Yokai Attack, the Japanese Monster Survival Guide, and its sequels, which actually do touch on Japanese spirituality in a kind of more oblique way. We'll get into kind of the relationship between yokai, which are monsters, and more spiritual sorts of aspects of Japan later. But I'm also the author of a book called Pure Invention, How Japan Made the Modern World, which is all about me tracking down all the cool inventions like the karaoke machine, the Famicom, the inventors of them, and talking about how Japan kind of became a fantasy machine. So, but let's get on to the main presentation at hand. Hiroko, are you ready? Yes. Here we go.
So first, I'd like to talk about big picture. It's called it's a concept. Yaoyorozu no Kami. 8 million spiritual beings. The 8 million here is not exact number. It's just simply many or infinite number. The people in old days, Japanese people in old times, they thought that everything, the surrounding them, had a spirit. The sun, the moon, clouds, river, rocks, wind, and even the words they spoke. That concept, it's pretty much active today. And then the term is from Shinto, but it's much bigger than that. And I would say it's a foundation of Japanese culture.
How many of you have actually heard the word kami? Kami? Yeah, see a lot of you, because it's like used in a lot of, that's actually more than I was expecting, but probably not here, because it's AnimeNYC. The kami comes up a lot in manga and anime and things like that. And it's often translated in English as God or gods, because Japan, Shinto in particular, is a polytheistic, many spiritual beings there. But the problem is God and gods are so freighted with Western kind of baggage about religion that we don't like using them. We just like to call kami kami and leave it as is.
Yeah, and I think that the big difference between the God, God, and kami are among the kami, there's no hierarchy. Mm-hmm. There's all equal in existence. So there are many types of kami in Japanese spirituality. The kami of the sun, the kami of the tree, the mountain, but also the kami of plague, kami of poverty, and the kami of toothache.
There's a kami for everything.
And then, but the Japanese don't venerate those bad things. It just simply, it's a reminder that no matter how much you hate and you wish and disappear the bad stuff, but it's a whole truth. It exists. So this concept is just reminding us that okay, it exists. So how we can deal with it, and then that's why we like to use kami instead of gods.
So you might notice a familiar face in here. Totoro is kind of standing there in front of the mountains. Now, before I say what I'm going to say, let me be absolutely clear about something. Totoro is not Shinto. He is not part of any religion. He, she, it. But Totoro isn't exactly not a kami either. So much of Shinto and the kami are avatars of the natural world. And avatars of nature. And Totoro is an avatar of the forest that Satsuki and Mei play in. It is the protector of that forest. So in that sense, you can see how the spirituality being filtered through Hayao Miyazaki, who is born and raised in Japan, is manifesting in this kind of indirect way. Because that is the worldview of Japan, that spirits dwell in the natural world. So, if kami are everywhere, you might be asking yourselves, how do Japanese spiritually interface with them? And the answer to that is
it's Shinto shrine.
A Shinto shrine.
I just chose I call it spiritual. The Shinto shrine icons. The details are minor details are different, but Shinto shrines pretty much look like that. Mm-hmm. The shrines for the vast majority of Japanese people are basically go to the place where they show respect. It's a quiet area, but we don't see the Shinto shrine and to go there and show the respect as a religious act. It's rebalancing ourselves, recenter ourselves. In a busy modern era.
Yeah, it's really common if you saw somebody like praying at a Shinto shrine in Japan and you went up to them and asked them like, what are they doing? Like, who are they praying to? I don't do this because it's their private thing. But if you did, they would probably be like, I don't know. And like, what's your religion? I don't know. It's just, it's part of the fabric of Japanese life more than it is some kind of dogma or even ritual. But the main aspect of a shrine, how many of you have seen this red structure before? I bet a lot of you have, right? We're gonna get into why in a minute. That's called a torii. It is a gate. It is the delineation of where the sacred space in a shrine begins.
Then number two, right behind that torii gate, the pair of mythical animals called komainu. And they are guardians. They're guarding against
malice,
evil malice. The number three is called Temizu Basin. That's the place where people wash their hands and rinse their mouth to purify themselves.
4 is really interesting. It's called a shimenawa. It's a rope, and it delineates, it's another way of delineating the kind of profane and the sacred. And you'll often see them wrapped around big old trees. Remember, Shinto is very based in kind of a nature, affection towards nature. You'll also see them draped around the shrines themselves. They're made of straw, and they often have paper streamers hanging from them. I guarantee you've seen them in manga and anime. We're gonna move ahead to this, but the reason we're showing you all of these things is once you have them in your head, when we start going through examples in series, suddenly it's gonna start popping out at you.
Yeah, so anyway, the shimenawa, the rope, it's a code. It's a code that when you see it, the object is worthy to respect. It's some kind of sacredness. Number 5, the building. It's called haiden. The building where people show respect and pray.
Yeah.
Number 6, the Shinto priest and the Miko, the shrine maiden, and they are the people who take care of shrines.
So let's look at like an example of one of these symbols. This is from an anime you might know. It's called Demon Slayer. Do we all know Demon Slayer? Yes, yes, yeah, woo! Anyway, this is a really interesting scene where Tanjiro is practicing to learn one of his techniques. And he practices it in front of this giant boulder that is wrapped with a shimenawa. To any Japanese person, they would instantly know that this is a sacred place. This is a unique place. It's a place deserving of respect. There must be some power there. And the fact that you see this boy sitting on top of it, girl sitting on top of it, would instantly be recognizable that this person is probably not of our world. And so when Tanjiro is practicing against them and masters the technique, she disappears and the rock is cleft in two because he's actually been training against this natural force the entire time, this natural avatar the entire time. Incidentally, there's actually a lot of these rocks that are cut in two in places in Japan. Japan's a very mountainous place, and many of them have names like it was cut by a tengu, or in folklore, or was cut by a famous swordsman. So all of this is dealing in symbols that would be instantly recognizable to Japanese, even young Japanese fans.
So those are actual the pictures that we took in Japan, those Shinto shrines, and one on the left. I took it in Osaka. You know the Torii Gate. So there's a Shinto shrine inside. There's a traffic light. There's a student riding on the bike.
Yeah.
So basically, this shrine it's in the town.
And shrines are really in the middle of cities. I took the one on the right. This is like 5 steps away from Tokyo Station. It's like a major train station. This is one of the most densely populated places in Japan. It's all skyscrapers. And long ago, there must have been a little shrine here, and they kept it. The locals kept it. It's still there now, if you know where to look. It's surrounded by skyscrapers, but it's still being tended. And it just goes to show you how much a part of the fabric of life Shinto and shrines are there.
Yeah, and in the shrines are really everywhere. I mean, if you come to Japan, you know. There are 3 major belief systems in Japan. Shinto, Buddhism, and Shugendo, and we're gonna kind of talk about it later. But anyway, the number of Shinto shrines, and the temples, the Buddhist and Shugendo temples, it's actually 3 times more than the number of convenience store.
Yeah.
So you can tell it's just everywhere. And then those shrines and the temples, most of them are open to public. Anybody can go in, so long as they show respect. So it's a part of our it's fabric of our daily life.
But the real irony is, in survey after survey, if Japanese people are asked if they're religious, they say no. So don't believe those surveys. Don't believe Japanese people. Don't believe those surveys, because the problem is when you ask questions like that, you're kind of coming from a Western standpoint of like a religious belief, faith standpoint, and I don't think these are about belief and faith in the way we think of them.
Yeah, and so because it's our worldview rather than religion. That there's a reason and why the Shinto is called Shinto. The To means the way. In English, the way of coming. So it's a lifestyle and it's a worldview.
So let's look at some more examples now that you're familiar with this. These are just some random screenshots that we took. Upper left is Jujutsu Kaise. Now you can probably start to understand, start to look at these scenes like a Japanese viewer would. In Jujutsu Kaise, they never really make a big deal about this, but you can see they're often on the ground of a shrine, and look, Panda is hanging out behind a Koma Inu, one of those protector guardians that Hiroko mentioned. DanDaDan, which is a huge favorite of mine and Hiroko's, the grandmother lives inside of a Shinto shrine grounds. You have to pass through a Torii gate to get there, so you know. Normal, average folks in Japan don't live in places like this, so you can already tell any Japanese viewer or reader is going to be like, wow, this woman is obviously pretty different. The bottom left was a funny one that even Hiroko didn't notice. We were watching the latest Gundam series, Geek Axe. This is Mobile Suit Gundam. It is a far future science fiction space opera set on space colonies. Humanity has migrated away from Earth. We're in space colonies, and they're living in cities there. But even in those cities, Japanese animators can't imagine not having a Shinto shrine. And so this just goes to show you, and this isn't a major plot point. It's just at one point, two of the characters meet here. And so what's the bottom right? This is kaiju number 8.
Okay, so this is very interesting. I found it very interesting. So it's a Kafka, the protagonist of kaiju number 8. Well, he has a mark on an arm,
Yeah.
and the circle, and it has a Japanese kanji on it. It says Izumo. That name is inspired from one of the major popular Shinto Grand Shrine, Izumo Grand Shrine. So it's there. It's just Japanese spirituality
Just
everywhere.
Yeah, even when you're fighting kaiju,
It's
perhaps
just
especially when
there.
you're fighting kaiju. Okay, so this was like the kind of basic level. Let's do a more advanced one next. I'm going to show you a scene. Okay, tell me if you've seen this scene before. Have we seen this scene? How many of us have seen this scene? Yeah, like pretty much everybody. If you haven't seen this scene, go immediately rent My Neighbor Totoro by Hayao Miyazaki. It is an absolute timeless classic. And this is one of its most iconic moments. Satsuki and Mei waiting at a train stop, and Totoro suddenly shows up with them in the dark and hangs out. And you might be asking yourself, well, what is spiritual about this, other than perhaps Totoro himself? But let's do a little CSI forensic analysis on this. Look at the bus stop. Now, if you can read this, it says Inari Mae, which means in front of the Inari Jinja, in front of the Inari shrine. So somewhere, any Japanese person watching this scene would know that there has to be a shrine, an Inari shrine specifically. Maybe it's in the dark there, maybe it's off to the side, but they're actually standing in front of a shrine, literally in this case.
So what is interesting is that the Inari Jinja shrine is the most popular Shinto shrines in Japan. Some say 30,000, others say 40,000. Basically, it's just everywhere. And if you happen to see the statue of fox statue like that, that's Inari Jinja shrine. And it's a kami for abundant harvest, or
prosperity, harvest.
All kind
it's
of
very
stuff.
much a harvest sort of kami. And the foxes are actually, I believe, they're like the familiar to the kami in there. But Inari shrines are everywhere, and this scene in Totoro takes place in front of one. So let's look at another aspect of shrines that you might not have noticed, but are indelibly associated with them. Staircases.
Staircases.
So, I don't know how many of you have ever been to Japan, if you've gone to shrines. They are inevitably at the top of like a really tall staircase. And I remember the first time I was going as a kid, I was like, man, this is a lot of walking.
But the funniest thing, so 7 months ago, Matt pointed out to me, Hiroko, Shinto shrines are associated with staircase. And I said, what staircase? It just didn't register me because it's just so common. It's like an air to me, so I didn't notice. And then I started watching the anime. I said, oh yeah, there are so many staircases.
Yeah.
And then, so here you go.
And they're like major scenes. This one's from DanDaDan, and here's another one from Demon Slayer, and the one in Gundam, Jeek acts as at the top of the staircase. But the one at the far upper right, Your Name, this is a famous, it's so famous, it's actually the poster for the movie, right? You notice they're on a staircase. That's a very real staircase. It's in Yotsuya in Tokyo, and it leads to a shrine. So this actually, them crossing on this path here is a sort of spiritual kind of nod to I don't know spoilers, I don't want to ruin what happens in the movie, but this spot in Tokyo has become a huge pilgrimage site, not for religious pilgrims, but for anime pilgrims like you, who come and take their pictures there and recreate the scene.
So I went through my photos, and I realized, yeah, there are staircases. And then actually in the picture in the middle, there are 538 steps, and it didn't even really register me.
Yeah, look at that person at the top is like practically tripping up there.
So it made me realize that the staircase is actually another code for Shinto shrines. And even the flatland, there is a shrine, they create one step. It's basically a staircase, gives you experience to go higher places to meet someone or something spiritual beyond us.
And we're going to give time for a little Q&A after this. We're going to go through a few more of these slides because we want to fill your brains with the code first. But here's another example of something that is inextricably connected to shrines: trees. We were talking about the trees with the rope wrapped around them. You will always see trees near shrines.
So,
and this links to something.
This links to something. So, in Japanese language, every noun has its own countable. In English, when you count something, you guys use noun. Say, bird, for example, one bird, two birds, three birds. But in Japanese, the bird is tori in Japanese, but we don't use tori as for countable. We call ichiwa, niwa, sanwa, and not just like that. It's each noun has different countable. Anyway. Of course, because there are 8 million infinite number of kami, so we have countable for kami too. And then that countable is hashira.
You might have heard of this.
Yes, right?
You might have heard of this in Demon Slayer.
Hashira means it's pillars. You can't build houses or buildings without pillars. So it's a supporting role. So, and then when you look at the kanji writing hashira, it contains the word of
the radical
tree. So that's the countable. And anyway, So did you? Yeah.
I already put it up. I wanted to.
So just don't get me wrong. That those guys are kami. They are not. They're humans, but they're inspired from the countable hashira just because they play an important role, supporting role for really difficult battles.
Right. So here's another really fun one where we can kind of dissect now with some of the things that we know. This is Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away. Has anybody seen this? Anybody? Yes, right. Again, if you haven't seen this, you must immediately exit after this is done and begin streaming it. It's a great movie. It actually won the Oscar in 2001.
That's right.
So anyway, this is a great movie. It's set in a bathhouse in a kind of isekai, you might call it, although they don't call it that. It's like a kind of another world, another kind of dimension near ours, where all of the various and sundry kami and spiritual beings of Japan come to take a break. And not inhabitants, the customers of this bathhouse all have codes built into them that Japanese people can recognize. Now again, I want to be really clear, these aren't actual Shinto kami, these aren't actual Buddhist deities or anything like that. Miyazaki is just playing with the kind of spiritual concepts. And interestingly, Shinto, Japan, I think we can all agree here at AnimeNYC, Japan is a country that loves illustration. It is a country that loves drawing and portraying things, all sorts of things. There aren't really any portrayals of the kami, right? But it's not a taboo, right?
It's not taboo.
I think maybe it's just because they're so infinite and powerful that the human mind can't even think to draw what they are. And actually,
it's not just a taboo, but it's actually the prayer and playfulness are intertwined as long as we have respect. So this is it's having fun. And so anyway, we have to be crystal clear that those characters are Ghibli's
They're characters. They're 100% C in a circle characters.
But we like to share with those the screenshots just because it's obviously they're inspired from Japanese spirituality.
So Miyazaki is the only person who can draw these, I guess.
Yeah. So the first
upper left.
So now the ogre-like creature wearing a mask. And then that's Shinto shrine, the Torii Gate. So it's something to do with Shinto. The bottom
right
left.
Beneath them,
Yeah. Underneath, I don't know what's the character it's all about. It's the yellow thing. I just don't know. But if you look at it closely, there is the pattern. There's a drawing, the writing of Japanese, and it says Namu. That's a Buddhist term. So for some reason, that yellow character, it's somehow something to do with Buddhism.
And the one in the middle has a lot of kanji written on it. It says daimyojin. Daimyojin is a type of kami that's associated with a belief system called shugendo. It's the third major belief system in Japan, and it centers on veneration of mountains. The practitioners of shugendo live in the mountains, worship in the mountains. Anyway, because this is written with daimyojin, this must be some kind of shugendo kami of some kind. We don't know. And that's the great thing about this. Like, Miyazaki lets you kind of interpret these things. He doesn't say this is Shinto, this is Buddhist. If you can read the codes, you can figure out what games he's playing.
And lastly, it's Haku. Haku is a friend of the protagonist, Chihiro, and he is avatar for a river. And he's a little dragon. And the dragon is actually, it's very interesting because there's a cultural difference between Japan and in the West.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved dragons, but in the West, they're inevitably portrayed as like villains. Like in the Bible, when dragons are mentioned, it's always negative, it's not positive. Like even like think about like J.R. Tolkien, The Hobbit. The dragon is not a good guy. He's hoarding all of this kind of gold and stuff. So they're kind of greedy, they're dangerous, they're scary. But in Asia, China and Japan, dragons are associated, they're rain bringers, which means they're life bringers. So they're seen as being a positive force. They're absolutely not, like you would be very happy to see a dragon. You know, in Western folklore, if you see a dragon, it's time to throw your saving roll and like pray that you don't get fried by, you know, dragon breath. But that's not the way it is in Asia. And that's why the protagonist, Chihiro's friend, is a kind of a dragon who is a river. And that's the explanation of why those two connect that way.
Yeah, and also I'd like to point it out that so this, you know, now you saw that Shinto-ish, Buddhism-ish, and Shugendo-ish in a bathhouse. So they're sharing the same, you know, same area. Yeah. So in Japan, in the Japanese spirituality, the lines between the different beliefs are very blurred. And it's actually blending. It's kami and the deities are living side by side.
Yeah, in fact, it can be often difficult to tell what's a Shinto place and what's a Buddhist place.
Even Japanese just cannot tell.
If you think about this from a Western perspective, it's almost incomprehensible that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a church and a synagogue, or a mosque, and you know, these all look different. There are very strict lines between them, both architecturally and in the way that these belief systems are practiced. But in Japan, they really blend together. And this is another reason why, when Japanese are asked what their religion is, they say none. And I think we should mention here, the word religion in Japanese, shukyo, it was only coined in when? Like the 1800s?
1800s. It's actually, Japan was closed until Black Ship.
The American
ships came and then it opened it up. And there's a lot of Western concepts, you know, the flooding to Japan, the bank, all kinds of stuff. And then also religion. So the Japanese intellectuals like, oh my gosh, we need a word. And then they came up with the word, shukyo. So basically what shukyo means is Christianity. So now you guys know that Christianity is hierarchy and a single God. And in Japanese spirituality, there's multiple, infinite number. So basically, if you ask Japanese people and say, are you religious? And it automatically says no, because our kami are infinite number. So
there's always room for more.
There's always room for more.
So should we have some time for questions? And then,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, so maybe we should take a break for a few minutes, and if anybody has any questions, we're going to jump ahead real quick here to some kind of spirituality that you might be able to do in your, we'll come back to this if we have time.
Okay.
In your
we're
going to use Jujutsu Kaise.
Jujutsu Kaisen. We know how popular the Jujutsu Kaisen is, but if you don't know the Japanese language, well, it's just a bunch of syllables, basically. What do you mean? You know, what does it mean?
Yeah.
The Jujutsu means the technique, and to use any kinds of spiritual forces to change something for desirable outcome.
And that's a real word from Japanese folklore. It's used all over the place in Japanese.
And Kaisen, it's a made-up word by manga artist, but it basically means battle. So so what means here is spiritual force.
Spiritual battle.
Battle.
You can
Spiritual
think of it that way. And in the anime, all of the characters, all the main characters, use jujutsu in terms of kind of their supernatural powers. They can, one can manifest familiars, another like giant hammers. Gojo seems like he's just kind of almighty. But because all of these techniques, that's not Gojo though. All of these techniques seem so over the top, it feels like fiction. But jujutsu has a very long history in Japan, in real history as a concept. And here's real life jujutsu.
So this is omikuji. If you come to Japan, you can do that in any most of all Shinto shrines and the temples, the Buddhist temples. So you basically draw a lot the numbers, and then each number has it's a different fortune. So that's the omikuji system. But the omikuji itself,
it's just fortune
it's not jujutsu. It's just fortune telling. But what is interesting is that if you don't like the fortune that you draw, you can leave it behind. You can separate yourself. All you have to do is fold a paper, fortune telling paper, fold it up, and tie it up in a special place in the Shinto shrine or the temples that you did omikuji, and then just leave it. That's jujutsu. You just basically change your luck or fortunes that you don't like for desirable outcome.
Yeah, and that's funny because in the West, like fortunes are like, this is your doom, you know what I mean? This is your fortune. But in Japan, they are malleable, they're changeable when you use jujutsu. So if you're a Jujutsu Kaisen fan and you're in Japan, this is a jujutsu that you can perform yourself. And we touched on this before, but the way that spirituality mixes in Japan, and this will be the last slide here, is really interesting. Another major characteristics of Japanese spirituality is the mixing spirituality. And then those screenshots are from the Jujutsu Kaisen on the top, and the bottom is DanDaDan. The Jujutsu Kaisen, that screenshot it's a campus, and if you know the spiritual codes, that buildings are actually mixed, it's mixed to different type of religion. At least. Anyway, one side is Shinto and the other side is Buddhism, and then also just outside of the campus, there's a Shinto torii gate. So what you're seeing here is that in this anime world, the characters are using Japanese spirituality as a practical tool to do something. So what's happening here is that they are creating spiritual barrier. And that's why the dark curtain is coming down outside of the torii gate. The bottom are DanDaDan. And then as we said before, that Shinto shrines grandma lives in Shinto shrines. But if you look closely on the torii gate, the Shinto gate, there is a talisman. And paper talisman, and grandma put it up. That's a Buddhist talisman. It's the talisman of Buddhism. Yeah. And so but also the manga version, the manga artist actually used the real talisman, and it's called Ganzan Daishi. It's based on the real person, long time, 1,000 years ago, but now it's a Buddhist deity to protect and guarding against evil malice. And then the real one it's actually mine, and I put it up on my kitchen wall. Yeah,
To Japanese people, it's a mixed in spirituality. It's not taboo, and then also we freely use it, as a practical tool to make our to spark joy.
So that's it for now. We'll take some questions, but these are our books. Please feel free to hit the QR codes when you get a chance, and you can check them out. Hiroko's book, 8 Million Ways to Happiness, is coming out on December 30th, and it is as she said, a memoir about her exploring all sorts of Japanese spiritual traditions and using them to help navigate really difficult time in her life. And we're all kind of in a very strange period in American history and human history right now. And we need all the help we can get. So maybe if some of these spiritual tools help you, that's great. But in the meantime, questions?
Questions?
By the way, thank you everybody for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
You know, you can stay, you can keep staying, and you can leave if you have to. But thank you so much for coming. We really, really, really appreciate it. So are Japanese people born into Shinto? Do they feel like they're born into Shinto? You should talk about the born Shinto, married Christian.
Ah, so...
There's a famous saying in Japanese.
No, it's you can say.
There's a famous saying in Japanese, born Shinto, married Christian, died Buddhist. And this is just goes to show you, and this is actually kind of an answer to the previous question about Western religions mixing in. And this is because most Japanese babies are, many, not all, Hiroko wasn't, but taken as a baby to a shrine to be blessed after they're born. And then many Japanese people choose to have a Christian wedding.
I did.
We did. Well, we did.
We did.
We did.
Just because I
and we're
wanted to
not
wear a
Christian.
dress. Yeah.
And we're not Christian, Hiroko. You just
I wanted to wear the white dress, you know? This is pretty.
You know? And then many people in Japan, perhaps even most, are buried with Buddhist rites. So it just goes to show you how seamlessly Japanese can transition between these religious modes in daily life without any kind of friction at all whatsoever, which is
it's a tool. It's a tool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's typical, but you know, most people bring their babies to a shrine and have them blessed.
Yes,
you know.
with the beautiful kimono.
But I don't know that that's born Shinto. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe everybody, maybe we're all born Shinto.
But I don't know if it's born Shinto because, like I said, the Shinto is the way of kami, and then so you don't have to be Japanese. And you don't have to believe in kami because in Japanese spirituality, the matter of belief doesn't matter. Not really. It's not the really important. Believe it or not believe, more like respect, because the kami belongs to nature. So do you believe in river? I mean, no. So it's a different worldview. And then also I'd like to really emphasize here is that just because Shinto, Japan, it's not like that. That's basically why I wrote my book in English and I published from American publisher, Penguin Random House. Just because there are so many things, good things that we Japanese can share with you guys. And then one of the major thing is that the 8 million, infinite number, and then there's always a room for more. And then we can happily coexist, like AnimeNYC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boy, what a great question.
Because we
actually skipped this slide.
Yeah.
We skipped this slide. What is the relationship between kami and yokai? So after we published our book, Yokai Attack, the Japanese Monster Survival Guide, published by Tuttle, available at a bookstore near you, a lot of people asked us what the difference between yokai and kami was. And truthfully, it's pretty blurry, right?
So the kami, simply put, the kami are not yokai. Yokai are not kami. But the line is very blurred. The reason why the line is blurred is because both of them are the characterization of natural phenomena and unexplainable thing. And the difference.
Yeah, it's tempting to call the yokai the bad guys and the kami the good guys, but
it's just too simplification. Because yokai to us in Japanese Japan, it's like a friendly neighbor.
Friendly neighborhood, not Spider-Man.
Not Spider-Man, but you know,
friendly neighborhood yokai. Yeah.
So anyway, the dividing factor between kami and the yokai are if you have a feeling of awe. So go ahead.
So like, you know, this is the god of thunder, Raijin, and the god of wind, Fujin, and they look pretty monstrous. But this isn't monstrous because they're like inhuman or anything like that. It's because they are so powerful. They're monstrously powerful. And wind, it blows and it like kind of fertilizes and it helps like, you know, blow pollen around and fertilize things. But it can also swirl up into a huge hurricane and be very scary and dangerous. So that kind of power is what's being acknowledged by making it a kami. Or thunder, the same thing. Lightning is scary, thunder is scary, but Actually, in Japanese folklore, when the lightning hits, the fields get more fertile. So there's this powers that are kind of balanced, right?
So it's like, there's no good and bad, it can be both at the same time.
Yes, both can be the same time. Yes, because everything, it's just not 100% absolute bad. There's no such thing. There's no absolute good either. Because the rain is the same thing. It's a storm. It can flood, can kill you, But at the same time, if you don't have rain, we basically gonna die. So it's a
The duality.
duality. It's always duality.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
And there's always room for more, but do people ever come up with new ones for modern concepts, like a common computer? Is there trying to
Good questions. Because I did. Go ahead.
Well, Mabie?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
mean, the people are always coming up with new, and less kami and more yokai. There's a lot of modern day yokai, and actually recently during pandemic, a yokai came to symbolize the pandemic for the Japanese. Her name was Amabie. She kind of looks like she's got like a mermaid kind of, maybe a she, maybe an it with long hair. And this yokai became the symbol to Japanese of the pandemic and our response to it. And so during pandemic, this yokai was put on all sorts of like disinfectants and things like that, and people were sharing images of her. And it was very much like a living example of like kind of folklore transmitting in the modern era. There are actually, there's at least one shrine, the Kanda Myojin, where they have it's not a kami, but they have an omamori, an amulet of protection against data loss in your computer. And you can buy
in a vending machine.
And it's in a vending machine.
I guess there's so many people go there, so they have a vending machine of the talismans. And then it's just to put the coins, push the button, and then just
So there's amulets for traffic, and there's amulets for getting into your favorite, into the school, for study, all sorts of things. But now there's these modern amulets for data, not anti-loss of data and stuff like that. So you do see modern manifestations of this. Yeah, it's not the shrine. It's just the shrine is selling a amulet, but it's fun. It's cool. But Hiroko, in your book, you talk a little bit about the time when Buddhism came, and there actually was a kind of holy war that was fought. We're talking like 1,000 some years ago between the people of native beliefs and of Buddhism. But the interesting thing is that Shinto didn't even have a name until Buddhism came to Japan. Japanese didn't even name their beliefs. They were just part of what was happening. And so it was the Buddhism coming to Japan is what kind of keyed Japanese people to realizing our beliefs that we've been doing are kind of unique and different, and we need to come up with a name for them. So, but they ended up coexisting.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. I mean, there's a battle. It's like, oh my gosh, just new things that came in, and there's a friction. But in the end, they decided to coexist. I mean, that's the interesting part.
Because now there's not a lot of coexistence between different belief systems.
So yeah, it's actually, there's a war a long time ago when when Buddhism came in, and then actually the Buddhists won. But what they did was that, we respect, of course, the Buddhist deity, but also we respect the kami. I mean, it's written in the folklore. It's
the Constitution, actually, of the year 700. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's very different. It's very different than Chinese or Indian or anything. But we're not really comparative religion people, so
more like culture stuff.
Good luck translating that stuff, though.
Thank you.
So many questions.
Okay, bring it on.
No, we have time, I think, until 5:30 or so. In 100 years, that's a big time span.
Sure,
Yeah.
Maybe since World War II.
No, but since World War II, yeah, because Shinto was Japan was a fascist regime during World War II, and they mandated that Shinto was the thing. That's not the case anymore.
No, because it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
It didn't work. It just in the Death Star, and still we have it just that so that. The long time ago, and I'm talking about it's like 100 years ago, the kami and the deities are sit side by side, and then side by side, and it's just totally the blend in, and then later on the just when the word Shukyo was created, that basically took it apart. And then it created the state Shinto, and it didn't work. And then now just basically they started coming back again, just to blend in. So
The good news for you is that in this book coming out in December, seriously, actually, Hiroko talks a lot about this. Here, take this, please. Please,
because
take
I
this.
struggle, to explain, and I hope you guys can understand.
No, it's tough to talk about, but anyway, thank you for the question.
Thank you for the
We have 1 minute left. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I think we only have one more question. Maybe we can talk afterwards. Thank you.